we tend to take little incidents that people have done, judge them, then condemn those individuals for life, closing the book on them. Once that is done, we add the experience to our typewriter list so that we have the comparative data for our next experience. Okay, that's out of context for you, obviously, but this is the paragraph that I was reading in this book called Repeatlessness. It's all about the mind and the body as an operating system, how it works. And as I was reading that paragraph, someone came up to me in the cafe and asked if they could sit in the empty seat next to me. And I said, yeah, of course. And then this person apologized to me and let me know that he was the one that had been erasing the name of my YouTube channel on the bathroom door. I made a video about that. Hi, Cody, if you're watching. Thank you again for the apology. So I found it interesting that I was reading that particular paragraph about judging others and then tending to, from that point on, just condemn them ever more. And, it says something about forgiveness and not making assumptions and things like that. And he also gave me this book, God's Relief for Burdens, Truth and Comfort from Philippians. So he saw the video that I made about like my confusion over the name of my YouTube channel being erased. And as I had suspected, he had thought that I was making the claim that Christians are fools rather than the reality of the situation, which is that I am calling myself a fool for Christ. So we had a nice talk, and interesting that I was reading this book about, the chapter that I'm reading is actually about thoughts and the energy that we send out into the world with our thoughts, and how that helps to co-create our reality through sending out vibrations into the world, because thoughts have a vibration. There is an electrical impulse that occurs in the brain every time you have a thought, and that electrical impulse has a vibration, a frequency, and it's actually been proven scientifically using instruments that can measure electricity in the air around us, that our thoughts, our brains actually emit an electrical field such that our thoughts, our brain activity, not the thoughts themselves, but the brain activity that is occurring with each thought that we have, can be measured 1 to 2 feet outside of the brain, outside of the body, which means that yes, indeed, our thoughts are actually going out into the world and physically impacting our reality through a phenomenon known as sympathetic vibration. This is not discussed in this book I'm reading, but something I've known about through previous studies. Sympathetic vibration, if you go into a room full of, let's say, pianos, and you go to one piano and you strike a C, okay, the way that pianos make sound is they actually have strings inside of them. So when you strike a key, it vibrates the string, right, which vibrates at a particular frequency. Every other piano in that room, the same string will begin to vibrate. because of the vibration that is sent out into the air around this one piano that you have touched. The others will begin to vibrate. This is the law of attraction, is pointing towards this phenomenon. So our thoughts actually do that. Our thoughts cause electrical impulses in our brain, which have a frequency which is sent out into the world. And then this is how we create our reality, but we are not the sole creators, we are co-creators. And so interesting that I was reading a book about this, and it actually, in the paragraph I was reading, mentions a book, closing the book on people, but because of our judgments of them. And this man who made a judgment about me came and gave me a book and apologized for the assumption that he and judgment that he had made about me. Wow, all very interesting, right? There might be something to all of this. And recently I've been making videos that I felt like are a little more shallow insofar as the topics I've been discussing and considering what's going on in the world. I've been really kind of avoiding talking about politics and things of that nature because it's just so heavy. And but it is heavy, and we are swimming in heaviness, and it's on purpose because I'm sure you guys have heard of predictive programming. Okay. Where ideas about the future are seeded into our movies, our music, the media, and we all see it at the same time. It goes into everyone's head, and it causes us all to have the same or similar thoughts, which then create a similar thought vibration, which is sent out into the world around us. And this is how our reality is changed. Okay? The people in charge of our media, of our world, of this matrix, the people with the most power and influence, call them the elites, call them the Illuminati, they understand this creation, this co-creation of reality. And they have used that information and leveraged it against us. You see, this is why it's so important that we take careful measures to filter what's coming into our minds, to carefully place our attention on what it is that we want to bring about into the world. I'm not saying that we should spiritual bypass. We shouldn't do that. But we should make sure that we are taking in positive content, being grateful for what we have been given, being grateful, because that creates a certain vibration, right? In this book that I'm reading, it talks about how, on average, the most of our thoughts are unconscious. Like 90% of the thoughts that we have are taking place unconsciously. And 80% of those thoughts, 4 out of every 5 of our thoughts are negative. So already off the gun, we're most of us are sending negative vibrations out into the world. So we need to be making a concerted effort to counteract that if we want to bring positive things into existence. And then we have this group of elites trying to keep us all in a fear state, in a low state, and feeding us constant chaos and misinformation and seeding things into media and movies and music to predictively program our minds into bringing about, it's a trick to get us to bring about the future that they want. Okay. Like all of what's going on with AI and them telling us what the future is going to be, the only reason that it might come to pass is because we all come to believe that it is already a done deal. But it is our belief that will actually bring it into being. You see, we are so powerful. We are so, so powerful. So not only do our brains have an electrical field that can be measured outside of the body, but so do our hearts. The Heart Math Institute, check it out. They've been studying this for a very long time. Our hearts have a field of electricity, of impulses that are being sent out from our body based off of our emotional state. When you have gratitude, okay, you send that out from your heart. So, through a practice of meditation, mindfulness, awareness, just being the observer, observing where your mind goes, observing how your body feels, you can actually begin to expand that field around your heart, around your mind. And when you expand that field of electricity, of energy, you are actually expanding your influence on the collective, right? That's the organic, natural way to do it, is to become a more awakened person, a more aware person. That is a Christ, that is a person who can create miracles, because their field is becoming so wide, so wide, so wide that it eventually merges with everything. And when that person has a thought, everything around that person is impacted by those waves that are created. But the elites, they have turned that on its head, and they have decided to cheat the system by doing like a Timu version of that through television, through music, through the radio waves. It's not anyone's heart that's doing it or mind that's doing it. It is the technology that is mimicking the heart and the mind and sending out these signals and implanting them into everyone's brains and hearts, and molding reality in that way, through hijacking us, through being parasites on us. And we have a responsibility not to let that happen, to guard our hearts, to guard our minds, because these are gifts that we've been given. You know, don't let it be taken away from you. Don't let your free will be taken away from you. You are powerful. Please remember that. So I haven't been talking about politics lately. It's not because I am spiritual bypassing. I'm definitely contending with these things, thinking about them. But I'm also making a concerted effort not to add to negativity. I'm trying to focus on how can I make a positive difference? How can I take responsibility in my own life and let that ripple out, right? And yeah, I think most of us saw the Charlie Kirk memorial and the really bad acting that went on there, and hasn't that thrown up a lot of red flags? Like, this is the world we're living in, guys. It's just fake to a disturbing degree. You know, the wiping away of the tears that weren't happening by his wife. She's now suing anyone who's talking about that, questioning her motivations, her relationship to the president. Like, there's a lot of insanity happening. And these are the people seeding thoughts into our minds. Sociopathic people. I do not want to be a vector for that. I don't want to be a tool for that. So, if you don't, then you have to take control of where you're placing your awareness and be very intentional about your thoughts and your energy and where you're sending it, while also not spiritual bypassing. That's my opinion. Okay, that's my rant for the day. But yeah, it was so nice of Cody to apologize and take responsibility, and he's a very nice person. So, okay, I'll talk to you guys later.